Welcome to Conversations with Gagan, where I talk about people, decisions, and outcomes. We live in a time where words travel faster than the people who write them. Visibility often arrives earlier than the understanding. Messages are amplified instantly, and meaning is frequently shaped not just by the intent, but by the interpretation. And yet, what's rarely discussed is what happens after something is published, how ideas are projected onto, how identities are formed in the public eye, and how the emotional and human weight of an expression continues long after the moment of posting. This conversation isn't just about platform or algorithm alone. It's about meaning, identity, and the lived experience of being visible in the world of constant amplification. And this is the human question we are sitting with. I'm joined by Ashwini Doreswamy, a content and manuscript specialist, having 2 decades of versatile experience across publishing, books, storytelling, leadership writing, and deeply reflective, human centered work. Having worked behind the scenes on books, ideas, and public narratives, Ashwini brings a rare perspective on how meaning is created, amplified, interpreted, and lived with over the time. Ashwini, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Gagan. Happy
So,
to be here.
how are you feeling today? And I think I'm glad that finally we could make it. You were quite busy
Yeah.
earlier with your books launch and everything, right?
Yeah, there was too much happening, and I'm glad I could finally give you this time. And I'm happy that you also followed up with me for this. So, really glad.
Actually, to be honest with you, I'm really fond of books. I have a bunch of books at my home. So, what is your favorite area if I have to talk about in the books? What do you like about the books? It's like leadership or something else.
Okay, let me take you back a few years. For me, as a child, books were my best companions. I used to be a bit of a loner.
Yeah.
And, so for me, the fantasy world, reading Enid Blyton, reading Tinkle, Chanda Mama, and all those other beautiful books, I connected instantly with stories, with people, fantastic experiences. So that is what initially drew me to books. Then, of course, as we age, as we mature, the kind of content that we read also changes. So, during my teenage years, it was all James Hadley Chase, Alistair McLean's, and Sherlock Holmes, and all those mysteries and crimes and thrillers and all. But of course, now I at present day, I read a lot of spiritual content. I read a lot of leadership content, and I have taken it as a personal goal to read at least 20 books in a year. So I use an app which tracks my books, and I keep updating. Okay, I read so
20
many
books
pages and
is
all.
lot.
So
I mean, though I'm fond of
yes, it
books,
is a
I can't
lot.
reach that point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same a few years earlier, but
Yeah.
then the moment I broke that barrier for myself, so I started consuming books that are easy to read, like material that you can complete in a day. So when that increased my count, I became more confident, and now I'm able to absorb books a little differently. I wouldn't say fast, but I read at least 5, 6 books at a time, so like two, three pages of each every day, and that is how I'm able to reach the target. So, but
It's really, I think I should also, it's not too late for me to take a new resolution now. Still, I am, in that scope of New Year. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talking of books, right? I don't want to directly jump into the publishing and books and all. And before
Mhm.
we get into algorithms and platforms, I noticed that you have been working across traditional publishing. You have done a lot of writing, human-related works, leadership book, digital media, and all. And when you look back, like you just mentioned from childhood, right? So let's if I took from there, when you look at your journey and what has remained constant or unchanged when you are talking of working with words and working with meaning, and despite that medium have been keep changing.
Good. Um, so when I joined Popular Prakashan, it was not my first job, but it was my first job in the publishing sector per se. So I had a little bit of taste of marketing, and for me, having learned that even in those days, even if you had to make a cold call, even if you had to kind of, it was not so easy to just, uh, you know, get into a person's mindset. You had to spend time. You had to kind of keep going back to that person. You had to build a relationship over a period of time. You had to find common connections. And that stayed with me as a lesson. And when I came into publishing, I saw the same thing being expanded a little bit more, because books is not, it's not it's a more immersive kind of a product. It's not a product that you just put up and it's done, right? It's an involved kind of a product. So it became much more deeper as a process to get your books sold. So we visited institutions, we visited libraries, we visited bookstores, we visited, several different companies which we thought would keep books. So even in a doctor's waiting room, or, those kind of formats, we were constantly going back to them, going back to them. And it was a relationship. We knew their families, they knew our families. So they knew what is happening in our life, we knew what is happening in their life. So it was relationships that actually drove the sales. It was relationship that actually made the books visible, the ones which we wanted to be visible on the stand. It was relationship that took the books on the stand.
So you're saying that relationship is something which is constant, which remains
It
unchanged.
is. It is. Even now, yes, although the format has kind of, I wouldn't say transformed completely, but it is like a dual thing. The personal relationship and the digital platform are kind of going hand in hand together. But still, even now, the impact that a book would have, why would I buy a book? What does it do for me? How does it help me? That still remains a main decision maker when people opt for books for personal reasons, or for stocking the book in the libraries or on the bookstand.
Yeah, I think that question you just mentioned, that why should I buy a book? Why should I read it? That's a
Yeah.
very important one, and I'll come to this later on because I have something in mind to talk about that. And before I jump onto that, like we have been experiencing different journey in publishing and books and all, right? So earlier traditional times it was slow, uh, trust based, right, and relational. And now if I see, it has transformed, it has changed to a state where it is platform independent or platform optimized. It is faster, and it is data driven also, right? Earlier it was trust based, now it is data driven. And I have you know I have been seeing it, experiencing it, that there have been many shifts in this journey from traditional to the modern, or the one we are seeing right now. But if I have to hear from the horse's mouth, from you who has experienced, who have witnessed everything firsthand, what have
Mhm.
you experienced as a fundamental shift in the way word travels from the people to the world? What has changed there?
Okay. Uh, so going back again, initially, when we promoted books, of course, it was one-to-one sales that happened, that was one part of it. But promoting a book involved launching, book launch events that we used to do. So if it was a cookery book, there was a live cookery demo, a live tasting session. If it was something related to art and craft, then of course we would involve children and organize a drawing and craft competition. I'm sure it still happens. It's not like it has gone completely out of the way. But then how these events are conducted, or how the events are presented, has changed. So in those days, so the events were longer, the format was longer, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And there were days when people, the auditorium people would have to kind of keep telling us, time ho gaya, time ho gaya. And, we would have to, okay, we have to wrap up, and we will have, kind of signal to the author, we'll try to signal to the chief guest and all. And that actually happened. So it was such a deeply involved place where people wanted to stay back. They wanted to keep consuming, keep asking, keep interacting. They did not want to leave. But now it is so different, right? People are always on a clock. It is like, okay, I attend this session and immediately I go home and I have clicked pictures, I have taken videos, and I have to post it. So, rather than consuming and being there in that environment, being present, interaction has moved to what kind of a content I'm going to create and what kind of posts I'm going to make. And then I'm looking at the likes, I'm looking at the footfall or viewership or everything. So that has completely changed, is what I would say, how
Uh,
we
yeah,
involve in
so
events.
that actually is a that's actually coming into the zone where I want to ask you a question. And it also relates back to your childhood thing you mentioned, that you were like kind of belonging to a book, right? And you just now mentioned that people want to just run from there, take pictures and post on the LinkedIn or somewhere, right? Wherever they want to know. So that actually is giving me this question comes to my mind that what is that a person gets from belonging that a visibility can never give, right? Because people post for visibility. And in the
Right.
first case, where people want to immerse themselves in asking questions or what is being said or the content of the book, that is missing because they just see superficially and then run away from there, right? So the
Right.
belongingness is, I think, reducing or kind of missing.
It is definitely reducing because people are in such a rush because it's no more like I said earlier, it's not so much of an involved process. It's more about what visibility I can create out of it. So for me personally, going back again to my childhood when I used to read books, I am a very what do you say, imaginative person, right? When I read a book, a certain picture gets created. It's like a movie is playing in my mind, right? And I go through the scenes, I actually visualize that the tree is here and the car is moving like that. I would visualize everything. And just to share with you one incident, when I read Harry Potter movies, and there's this particular snake called Basilisk, right? It is supposed to be a very fearsome kind of a creature. And when I saw it on the screen, on the large screen, I was like, "Hey, my snake was
Not what I
far more,
imagined.
yeah, it was far more fearsome than this. It felt like, underwhelming. So, yeah, so for people like me who get so involved in the content, yes, it's a different world altogether. So when I look at people who consume things just for the sake of creating content, I feel like, oh, you're not doing enough justice. You have not even understood what the author is trying to say. You have not even put yourself in those shoes, and God knows what you've understood out of it. Now, this is not just for fiction; it is also for non-fiction, where a person is trying to tell you a certain concept which could probably alter your life. I mean, I have read certain books which have actually helped me alter my life, course correct myself, and has brought really meaningful transformations into my life. So I believe this current crowd, which is in a hurry and in a content creation mode and wanting to just post and getting the likes and visibility on social media, I think they're missing out a lot.
Yeah, and if I have to move away from the author, from the reader's perspective to the other side,
Mhm.
author perspective or the creator, and nowadays we can say because uh, creations are now not limited to the books. We can do LinkedIn posts, we can go to any social media post right there. You can do podcasts, you can do audio podcasts, you can do video podcasts, right? Again, I mean, we'll come to that later on, but with the technology, uh, things have really changing. And if I have to talk about writing a book or writing a content, there's a lot of deep thinking which should be going into before you create a content, any kind of content, right? Which you want to be, amplified to a larger crowd because things travel faster now. So, what do you think that is this deep thinking is getting threatened by technology, or by the absence of a meaningful engagement, which is missing here?
Okay. I like this question a lot because I don't feel that technology by itself does anything good or anything bad. It's about the people who are using the technology, how they're consuming the technology, how they're applying it in their life. So technology by itself, again, uh, that's not the bit. It's about the person. It's about the habit. It's about what I want from what I'm reading, or what I want from life, or how I connect, or how I create meaning from the content that I'm reading. So coming back to the author perspective here, of course, I mean, I have written books which have taken years, not written, I have assisted certain authors, and we went through a very immersive process of, a lot of research was done. We met certain people, interviewed them, we took their perspective, people, from the industry itself who were leaders in that area. So it was a, amalgamation of a lot of wisdom and a lot of lived experience. So when so much of content goes into it, uh, rather, when you're writing a book, it is a responsibility as a writer, as an author, to know that what you're talking about is well validated. It is a lived experience and not just something that you want to say because you want to appear smart or you want to influence people and you want to create a certain impression. No, it is a responsibility on the author's part. And we take a lot of care. I have worked with authors, fortunately, who have taken a lot of care, and from them, I have also learned to take care that what I write is deeply, truly authentic, and hence it creates meaning because it comes from a lived experience, it comes from validated truths, and not just something which I Google or something which I take from somewhere and I get inspired and I write something out of it.
Yeah. So, talking of this content creation and continuing our discussion over there, right? These days, when you go to different platform, at the first place, reaching to the point of a book, like I said, people are so busy that they don't have time to read the entire book, right? People are more inclined towards maybe reading the preface or a summary of the book or put into the AI and then publish their views on LinkedIn. That is what people are doing
Hmm.
nowadays, right? And what is kind of missing in this is that people forget that if you are publishing something to the masses, that can impact people's thinking, it can change people's perception, it can go negative or positive, right? So people are kind of missing that sense of responsibility. So I typically try to understand that whenever something is published, you publish a book or post or message, anything, right, on a social media platform. So talking of a responsibility or a ownership, where does it end for the creator? Is it like lifelong, or there's a duration that you think that after this the ownership or responsibility goes down? What are your thoughts about it?
Okay. Interesting question. And no, I don't think the responsibility stops when I have written and published and released the book. No, it doesn't stop there. Because real readers, people who are actually engaged in the content which I'm going to write, it is going to impact their lives. It's not like a one-time thing. You've read it and you're done with it. No. When I shared a little earlier that there are books which transformed me, it gave me something which I could reflect on. It gave me, a sort of a springboard for me to elevate how I'm living my life, the quality of my thoughts, right? So as an author, that responsibility stays because, as a reader, I know that when I've read a good book, I'm going to recommend it to another person, right? So for the author, it is a responsibility not just to the reader, but to the 5, 10, 15, or many other people, because it's like it's like a ripples going out, right? It's the communication rippling out to many, many, many more lives. So I feel as an author, it is a huge responsibility. And as I say it, it's like, uh, I had never thought of this question in so much depth earlier, Gagan. So I thank you for giving me this question. So yes, it does give me a whole new perspective that, oh yes, it is actually a bigger, bigger, bigger responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I think. What I'm understanding in so far, what we have discussed is that technology may amplify the reach or the outreach of any publication, could be a book or a content or any social media post or a message. But it will never dissolve or dilute the responsibility part or the ownership part of the content that you have created. And if anything, the faster the idea is traveling, maybe in the world of social media, it travels very faster. The more care is required to understand that how these are getting shaped, how are they getting perceived by the authors, and how are they getting released. And the most important thing is how are they getting owned, because ownership is really very important. Nowadays I do see many posts on social media where someone posts something and then they write a small disclaimer there that uh, generated by AI or as taken from further book or that book, that publication, which is fine. I mean, you have definitely own or mention where you have taken it. But I think it's more of people trying to disown that if something is wrong, I am not responsible for it, right? Which really I like very awkward, because you can simply write at the end that you can say that this is inspired by this book or this publication instead of bits and pieces are putting disclaimer there, right? So I think that people are trying to disown the ownership or responsibility of whatever they're publishing, which is really, really very weird. What do you think about it? Is it a real thing that what people are doing, or maybe I am misunderstanding it?
Okay. Again, interesting perspective, Gagan. Yes, I do agree with you on the responsibility part of it, that yes, if I am quoting something from somewhere, I have to make absolutely sure that it is not taken out of context, right? Now, it may be that, and it's not wrong to say that this is from this particular book, or of course, we have to give credit where it's due. So that is in the right place. But yes, I get what you're saying, that if that is not a thought that I prescribe to as an author, I have no, there's no reason for me to put something there just to appear whatever it is that I want to appear. Maybe smart, intelligent, or I want to create an impression or whatever. Yes, the responsibility lies to the with the person who's putting that post up there.
Yeah.
It is you who chose to put it up there, so you might as well own up to it.
So what happens when I'm trying to probe further? So pardon me for
Okay,
that. But
no worries.
what happens when to a human being, right? When
Hmm.
visibility is faster than a self-understanding.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. This, interestingly, is actually the theme of the book which I recently wrote. It's
Really?
about a girl. Yeah. So the book is called Oops, I Became a Guru. So the Oops, became a Guru, that itself is like, a realization for this girl. I'll talk about the protagonist in a bit. So it's a moment where she realizes, oh, I did something without thinking. I jumped into the well without knowing swimming, kind of a scenario, right? So it's about this protagonist who she's a writer in a popular publishing house, and so I drew from my own experience a little bit there. And she stumbles into a situation where she puts up a post. She's a completely, sarcastic and cynical person who is a total atheist, and she doesn't believe in God and gurus and spirituality. So she puts a scathing post, kind of beating up all the guru figures. And then she puts a line in the end, she puts a paragraph in the end, says that a real guru does not do that. A real guru gives you clarity. That is the messaging that she's trying to put out there. And what happens is that people start seeing her as this wise guru figure, and they start calling her guru, and all that happens. And she's like, this is the last thing I wanted. I am against all spiritual leaders. What is happening, right? So she stumbles into this situation which clearly she does not like. And then she has to deal with imposter syndrome because her bosses tell her that, hey, we are, working on some project and we need you to be this fake guru. And then she becomes really drawn into a confused and a chaotic kind of a, interplay of thoughts and emotions. And she's really struggling with an imposter syndrome, and she's trying to navigate her way through all of this. And yeah, so this thing that, uh, it's literally like, think before you leave. So yeah, we have to be careful. We have to be sure of what we are posting, why we are posting. Just posting for the sake of it can sometimes come back and bite you. And that's not a very pleasant situation.
Yeah. So as they say, word is mightier than sword, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, there's a very, maybe it's only with me funny situation, but in childhood, when I was shying away from doing my homework or not reading the book, just keeping the book in my hand, my mother used to say that you think that a book in your hand will make everything go in your brain. And that time it was a scolding from my mother. But now I feel sometimes, if I keep a good book in front of me, maybe I'm not getting time to read it. But by the persona of the author or the creator of that content, right, you feel really motivated. Maybe you have not seen the content, but by the life of the person who becomes a larger than life, you become really motivated. And I have got really my favorite ones, and I mean, it would be our former president also, Abul Kalam Azad. So I have seen a lot of books from him,
Mm.
really motivating, and likewise other politicians and people understanding how their life has been. So I really feel that it's like a you say company, right? The kind of company you sit in with. So even if someone is not able to really immerse himself in the book nowadays, fast in the fast world, even if you have the book with you and you just read, like you said, few pages or read the summary of it, and you know the author really well, you are inspired by their life. That really could make a difference. It could be a lifesaver at many point of time. So I'll come back to the technology, right? And for if I talk about technology, what is happening nowadays with publications, the AI is the first thing that comes to the mind because it is fast tracking creation and it is fast tracking amplification also, right?
Right.
Considering the AI, what do you believe will genuinely endure, irrespective of or something beyond platforms, trends? What will be genuinely enduring?
AI is here to stay. There's no denying that. But then the way content used to be created in the olden days, with people really getting involved into a reflective mode and, getting to the root of deep questions of life. Whether it is a fantasy fiction kind of a story or even if it is a very serious piece of writing, it's again about the author. Yes, and there are people who are just creating content, giving a few structured prompts to the AI, and they are generating pages and pages of books and then immediately self-publishing it or whatever it is that they're doing. While they are doing that beyond a point, if it is not their brainchild, if it is not a real tactile, neural feeling, I have gone through that, right? I have gone through that process of, mulling over things, reflecting on it, discussing it, and then creating the content from it. When I have worked with some really awesome authors, that is the process that I actually, absorbed from them. So for me, when I wrote this book, yes, it draws from my own life. It is my reality. How much of reality can AI create, right? So given that distinction, while AI is here to stay, while AI will still be used to create all sorts of content in print, on television, everywhere on all platforms, while AI is still going to be largely used, what will stay with the reader is the feeling of connection. One, even when you're reading some AI generated content, there are a lot of people posting AI generated content, but when you read, you are able to differentiate. One is able to differentiate that yes, this feels real and this feels generated. So while some people may still like the generated content, AI generated content, there are still a larger group of people who still want that, that human connect. They want that feeling of that, yes, this appears real. This appears like a person's journey. This appears like something that actually happened. Or this appears like something, a battle tested, time tested kind of a concept. They will be able to recognize that because AI can only create so much content, but it cannot create the depth of meaning that people would want in their life. Real consumers of books. Consumers probably is not a great word, but lovers of books is what I would say. People who appreciate books would know the difference.
Uh, Talking of AI again, right? So let's
Mhm.
take an example. I want to publish something on LinkedIn or Medium or maybe publish a book. But maybe I am not very good at writing, but I have a lot of thoughts with me, right? So if I put my thoughts in a AI tool and ask that AI tool write a paragraph or post for me.
Mhm.
So I mean, still that you're saying people will be able to recognize a machine generated thing will be missing. So what do you suggest to people, right? They should use their own natural language for publishing, or they should take the help of technology, publish or summarize their contents or put their contents into better words or beautiful sentence framing. What is your thinking on that?
Okay. Like I answered to an earlier question, Gagan, when you asked about technology, whether it is, good or bad. So technology by itself, again, is not good or bad, right? So use of AI by itself is not good or bad. It's about the person who's writing the prompts and the reason why they're writing those prompts. Now, as you rightly said, if a person wants to enhance what they have written, maybe they want to have a different perspective Yes, AI can be treated like, a person with whom you're having a conversation. But wouldn't you rather have having that conversation with another real person? That is one part of it. Yes, AI can help you to clean up your language. It can help you to give a better structure. So for people who don't have the background of writing books, who don't have the training of how a book is structured, yes, it is a tool that you can use, but you cannot expect the tool to do the thinking for you. The thinking has to be yours. You have to be the one who is putting your heart and soul into the book. The AI can be used for the superficial structuring of it. So that is how I would like to approach this, a
That's
good
rightly said, because
symbiosis of, yeah.
even I believe that, uh, me, if I want to write something, I can do that thinking part, and I can put what I want to write in a prompt and what my thoughts are, what should happen, and then take the help of the tool to us, or assistance of the tool to give it a structure, the way it should be published and written. And again, depends on the medium I'm going to publish it. If it's a book,
Right.
definitely I can't use a simple language or a spoken format of sentences. It has to be in a proper way. Maybe if it's a you know social media post, I can use the language I want to use, the sentence framing I want to use. uh, and in this time of, in this era of infinite content, what still makes something meaningful as per you?
Okay. So the other day I was scrolling through Instagram, right? And like you said, there's a sea of content. People are posting left, right, and center. But there were some posts which actually caught my eye purely because I was interested in that. So the other day I saw one lady who's giving sort of, offering Bharatnatyam tips. Being a Bharatnatyam dancer, I used to dance when I was in school, not now. So having that interest, yes, I paused at her page, and when I saw the content that she was sharing, I liked it, right? So for me as a person, the first instance was the topic. The second was what was being shared about that topic. So this is one example. The other example was, certain Tai Chi exercises were being shown. So as a person who likes exercise but has been struggling with certain, postural issues, we sit in the same position and we forget to move around, right? So then certain neck issues and shoulder issues. So then I saw some content being shown, exercise made so easy. It looked as if a person is dancing. At the same time, when I actually tried it out for myself, it really, I felt that it actually worked so much better than certain other yoga videos which I saw. So again, this is a very open kind of a thing. There is no fixed for decision making, or there's no fixed thing about how what could be consumed or what could not be consumed. It entirely depends on the person who's going through it. So scrolling through certain things myself, this something clicked and something did not click. um yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I think we have reached to the end of this conversation today. It has been really a very thoughtful and grounded conversation, and I would like to thank you for this. And what will remain from this conversation today, Ashwini, will that be platform may shape the visibilities, right? They can decide how visibility can happen depending on which platform you're using. But what
Yeah.
will remain with human is the creation of the meaning. What meaning you are creating through your content, through your post, through your publishing, and how you are disseminating it, how are you amplifying it, that will remain with human. Ownership remains with human. But what will be with human is the most important thing is living with the consequences. That will always be with human. That's what I've understood from the conversation today. And I really want to thank you for bringing such a depth, and meaning to this conversation, clarity to the conversation. Now, I did have a lot of experience in this area, but you really brought clarity to my thoughts and my understanding about it. And I'm sure our listeners will also have this clarity. So thank you so much for being here, Ashwini, today.
Thank you, Gagan. Thank you for having me here. And I'm so, it really is nice to hear such generous words of appreciation. And I also hope that the viewers will like what was discussed here today.
Yeah. So, and to my viewers and listeners, I would say that if these things are resonating to you, please keep listening to our episodes. I'll be discussing in future how leadership, trust, and technology intersect in future. And as Ashwini rightly has said, visibility may be algorithmic, but responsibility will always be human.